Shalom and welcome to our Lag BaOmer special broadcast here on Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalNews.com. So let's begin with understanding what this day is all about, what we are commemorating. First of all, historically. We spoke earlier with Rabbi Burl Wein, the rabbi of the Hanassi Synagogue in Jerusalem and the director of the Destiny Foundation. Shalom, Rabbi Wein.
Shalom, Yoni. Pleasure.
So on Lag BaOmer, we're marking events that occurred in the days of Rabbi Akiva. So if you could please take us back to the time of Rabbi Akiva.
Well, in about 65 years after the Churban Bayis Sheni, after the Second Temple was destroyed, there was a great rebellion against the Romans, headed by Bar Kokhba, and it was a 4-year rebellion. The first 2 years were very successful. Even Jerusalem was recaptured by the Jews. But after a period of time, the Romans mobilized their legions and crushed the rebellion. Rabbi Akiva was originally the spiritual supporter of Bar Kokhba, and from the Talmud, it appears that he even thought him to be a potential Messiah. It didn't turn out that way. Beitar fell. Tens of thousands of Jews were slaughtered, and many more tens of thousands of Jews were taken into captivity. The fallout was disastrous. And the Talmud tells us that there was a period of time when 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva passed away from the beginning of Sfirat HaOmer, till the 33rd day of the Omer.
And this was parallel to the difficulties that you were talking about earlier?
So there is an opinion amongst the scholars, amongst Rishonim, one opinion that the 24,000 were killed in the war. There are other opinions that they died of plagues. But whatever it was an enormous tragedy of so many people to die at so short a period of time, so to speak, in so short a period of time, and the fact that they were Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim.
And this is why these days are days of mourning.
So that colored already the Sfira period. That's how it became a period of mourning. It became a period of not commemorating weddings and not shaving, not taking a haircut, etc. And that was the origin of it. The 33rd day, the Talmud says they ceased dying, and so therefore that became like a minor day of celebration. And that was the origin of Lag BaOmer. Now, over the centuries, Lag BaOmer has taken on few other layers because of historical events that occurred, and also because of the spread of Kabbalah in the Jewish world, which the Talmud did not speak about, but our world today has very strong Kabbalistic overtones.
So Rabbi Wein, with all the expectations and of course the success that you're talking about, the end of the story, so to speak, must have been tragically disappointing.
Right. Well, there's no question that at the beginning of the Bar Kokhba rebellion, and the fact that it was successful for 2 years, and that the Jews came back to Jerusalem, there's an opinion even that they attempted to restore the temple, and that they were going to bring the temple service back into actuality. And Rabbi Akiva said, Dorach Kochav Miyakov, that the great star of Jacob is now appearing. So naturally, there were enormous anticipation and hopes, and it didn't turn out. Many times if you have very high expectations and they're not realized, it's a greater disappointment than if you never had those expectations.
How do you, Rabbi Wein, see the bonfires that we're seeing on Lag BaOmer? Some say that they commemorate the bonfires from the Bar Kokhba rebellion.
Well, that's like justifying what we do by telling a story in the past. It could be, When I grew up, there were no bonfires. But when I grew up, there was the tradition that children went out into the open spaces, and we shot bows and arrows. And that was the reminder of the Bar Kokhba rebellion. And that was the reminder of what happened. I see in our neighborhood, every piece of wood is being collected. So I guess bonfires are more exciting.
So as a historian and as an educator, Rabbi Wein, what is it that we should be taking and learning from the historical events and the stories that we're talking about these days?
The message always of the Jewish people is resilience. The ability to rise from tragedy and rebuild ourselves, not to lose focus, the ability to realize that the Lord is protecting us in one way or another, and even when things don't go exactly as we think they should, we should not despair, but we should try again. And that's the greatness of Rabbi Akiva. After this happened, he still was Rabbi Akiva, and he still was able to produce students. He produced the 5 students that built the Mishnah, built the Talmud, that gave us the continuity of the Jewish people until today. So he himself is that great example of having ups and downs, so to speak, in his life, but never losing the fact that he was Rabbi Akiva and what he could do and what he could accomplish. And that's very important for us to understand also. Israel has ups and downs. It's not, many times I think part of the disappointment, if I could use that word, that some sections of Jewry have regarding the state of Israel is because their expectations were unrealistic, and they're unable to deal with the fact that it's a process, and we were getting there, it's painful, but you don't come back after 1900 years and all of a sudden everything should be perfect.
Rabbi Beryl Wein, Rabbi of the Hanassi Synagogue in Jerusalem and the director of the Destiny Foundation, thank you very much for joining us, and happy Lag BaOmer.
My pleasure, and have a happy Lag BaOmer.
Shalom Yoni from Har Meron in Israel. It's a tremendous pleasure and honor to be here. Excited to be here. Came from Montreal to be here with all people in Israel and pray for better days and pray for peace. And it's a real treat to be here. The organization is excellent. It gets better every year. And good luck to everyone. I think things that are special for us, we celebrate every year, whether it's Passover, whether it's Yom Kippur, whether it's Yom Yerushalayim. Special days, and we want to be together with people in Israel. So that's why we're here.
And now let's go in deep and discuss the spiritual meaning of Lag BaOmer and Meron. Joining us now is Rabbi Lazer Brody, editor of the Breslev International Magazine in English and spiritual mentor and educator. Shalom, Rabbi Brody. Happy Lag BaOmer.
Happy Lag BaOmer, Yoni, and to all your viewers.
So Lag BaOmer, a day of vacation, lots of fun with the bonfires and all, but a day with much meaning. How do we connect to the spiritual meaning of this day on the Jewish calendar?
Okay, first of all, Lag BaOmer is a very significant date because the Gemara tells us that back in the time of Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 students, and because they didn't properly respect one another, there wasn't unity. And as they didn't properly respect one another, they died in a plague. And it sounds like a pretty serious punishment, but on their spiritual level, they had more expected from them. We should learn from that unity. On Lag BaOmer, they stopped dying. Lag BaOmer, they stopped dying. Lag BaOmer is therefore a celebration for the Jewish people. It's really a unity celebration. It's where we stop the mourning, the 33 days of mourning. In addition to that, to add a cherry on the cake, it's the Yortzeit, we call in Yiddish, the day of the death, when the soul passes from the physical world into the spiritual world. In Judaism, it's a day of celebration, especially when a righteous person, what we call in Hebrew a tzaddik, passes from the world, because the righteous individual intercedes in behalf of the entire Jewish people. He could do more when he's out of the flesh than he can within the flesh. Like the Gemara tells us that the tzaddik never dies. So today is the Yortzeit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And you see Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you can see there are a lot of people, great tzaddikim, but they don't have 700,000-800,000 people visit their gravesite on their Yortzeit. And you have a Rabbi Shimon.
So, Rabbi Brody, what is it that is so unique about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, spiritually and in terms of leadership?
Okay, good. Let's separate two things. I'll answer the question one by one. First, spiritual, then as a leader of the Jewish people. Spiritually, Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, he writes, we have in Breslev theory that there's what's called the tzaddik of the generation, the righteous leader of the generation, who is an aspect of Moses. Imagine that the soul of Moses is a baton. Okay, Moses left the physical world, and he's buried in Jordan on Mount Nabu. Nobody knows where his burial place is. Okay, what was that Moses? His claim to fame. Moses brought down the written Torah from Mount Sinai. When Moses left this earth, the Almighty decided that his soul would be passed on to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What was special about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai brought down the esoteric Torah, which means the mystical commentary on the Torah that Moses, the 5 books of Moses. This is compiled and it's known as the Zohar. And the Zohar became the basis of Kabbalah. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai left the world, okay, and then the soul was passed on to Rabbi Yitzchak Luria Ashkenazi, the Holy Arizal. What was his nuance? He brought down the Torah of Kabbalah. In other words, one is based on the other. Rabbi Shimon, he built on what Moses started, and the Arizal built on what Rabbi Shimon started. He took the esoteric Torah, commented on it, made it into Kabbalah, which is the inner dimension of Torah. When the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria Ashkenazi, left the world, the baton, the soul, was passed on to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov brought down the Torah of the Hasidic movement. What the Torah of Hasidus came, it's a Torah of serving Hashem with joy, serving that no Jew is better than any other Jew. There used to be an aristocracy. There were the 2% that learned Torah, and the 98% of the masses that could barely read. The Baal Shem Tov changed all this. In other words, what we need the Baal Shem Tov around our government today. You'd have an equal opportunity for everyone. This is what he did with Judaism. Baal Shem Tov made equal opportunity in Judaism. Then the Baal Shem Tov, when he left the world, his soul was passed on to his great-grandson, Rabbi Nachman of Breslev. Rabbi Nachman of Breslev says, my fire will burn until the coming of Mashiach, which means that we believe that Rabbi Nachman is our spiritual leader until Mashiach comes, and the soul will be passed on to Mashiach. Okay, so here we have the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is an aspect of Moses. When you go, why do people go to Meron? Without them even knowing. and they see salvations and blessings, it's as if getting it from Moses, getting it right from, and you can't get any closer to Hashem. And we say every day, what's our belief? People say, what do you believe in flesh and blood? We don't believe in the tzaddik like saying we believe in Hashem. We only pray to Hashem. We don't pray to a gravesite, we don't pray to the tzaddik. But the tzaddik is close to Hashem, he intercedes in our behalf. Just like a person says, well, I'll be my own lawyer, I'll talk directly to the judge. No, usually you have a good lawyer that intercedes for you.
So really, there's the point that I'd like to also ask about the visits, aliyot lekever, visiting of the tombstones of our sages. What is the appropriate attitude when one comes to such a place?
Okay, the right attitude is that you could do one of two things. You could speak to Hashem, and Hashem, please accept my prayers by virtue of this holy tzaddik that's here. And there's another way you could speak. They say that the tzaddik never dies. You don't pray to the tzaddik, but just as if you'd go to a rebbe or a big tzaddik and you go and ask a blessing, you can ask Rabbi Shimon. He hears. He's not there physically. Rabbi Shimon, please intercede in my behalf and ask at the heavenly throne for such and such and such a blessing. By virtue, I'm here on your yort site and celebrating, and give me a blessing that I learn your teachings better, I learn more Zohar and whatnot. And it works, because hundreds of thousands of people, they see salvations. I could tell you, Yoni, story after story. People right here in the neighborhood. We have a couple of Baalei Teshuvas, and the wife, she was an Olympic weightlifter, and they made tshuva. But because of her weightlifting, the doctor said, young lady, you're never going to have kids. She had several hernias in her career from all this weight she was lifting, and her insides, I don't even want to describe it. And her husband was in the Israeli merchant marine. They both made tshuva, and they wanted kids, and they went to every specialist in Israel. There's no way. They went to Miron on Lag BaOmer. They cried their eyes out. 12 months later, they had a child. They had a child on the 10th of Iyar. 8 days later, the 18th of Iyar, Lag BaOmer, was the bris of that child. And of course, they schlepped him up to Miron. It was and they called him Shimon. This is an example of the type of things you see when the doctors say there's no way, the lawyer says there's no way. People see salvations, and so they run to Miron.
Now back to Rabbi Shimon. We're talking about the spiritual aspects of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but there's much to say about the character of the Rashbi of Rabbi Shimon in terms of leadership.
Yoni, it's especially significant with the government and everything that's going on, trying to put together a coalition. If you would ask me who would be the perfect prime minister, I could pick anyone from all of Jewish history and place him as prime minister, and who we need at a time when we're being pressured from nations around the world. On Independence Day, some people say, what are we really independent? Come on, look in the eye. And we're independent because we make a barbecue. How much do we succumb to pressure from Europe and pressure? Some Europeans say he's not going to buy products from the land of Israel. Or what we can do, what we can't do. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai would be my choice of the perfect leader of all of history, maybe second to Moses. Okay, but it would say Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Why did it say Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, what was he doing for 13 years in a cave in Miron? He and his son Rebbe Elazar, they fled the Romans. The Romans wanted to kill him. The Romans knew that if they killed Rabbi Shimon, that's it. They killed Judaism, they killed resistance, they killed everything. Because Rabbi Shimon, he resisted the Romans. He wanted no part of foreign intervention. He knew that our only freedom would be our physical freedom together with our spiritual freedom, and as spiritual leader, and he was very strong about this. And there were other appeasement leaders in his generation, even the Holy Tanoim, and they thought differently. They thought, better to appease the Romans. Rabbi Shimon said, no way, no compromise whatsoever. Rabbi Akiva, his teacher, was like that too. We saw what the Romans did to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was one of the 10 martyrs, and his flesh was raked off. And his student, he had 5 main students, one of which was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was very, very strong. But in addition, as strong as he was, and as tough as he was against foreign intervention, Rabbi Shimon loved every single Jew. They talked about poor people. If the poor people, there's a halacha a law in Jewish law that rich girls are allowed to use persimmon oil on Shabbat. Poor girls can't do it. And Rabbi Shimon says, well, there's no such thing as a poor girl. And every girl in Israel, she's the daughter of a king. They're all rich. It's the same halacha for everyone. And he said, Kol Yisrael b'nei malachim. All the children of Israel, they're all princes and princesses. He loved every single Jew. He was colorblind about Jews. He loved every single Jew. So here you have a great leader who's tough as nails on the outside against foreigners, foreign intervention, okay, and yet has compassion for every single Jew. Okay, you take Rabbi Shimon in today's government, he would be a socialist at home, and he'd be really tough on the outside, and this is the type of leader we dream of.
Let's end with the tradition that we're seeing throughout the streets tonight, the bonfire. Is there also an essence and Jewish traditional spiritual aspect to that?
Well, yeah, there's bonfires all over the country, and what it is, it's the bonfire. What in essence is the bonfire? Okay, the bonfire is a celebration of Eshet Torah. The Eshet Torah Yeshiva, that's the fire of Torah. That's the fire of Torah. That Rabbi Shimon, what he brought down the Zohar, and he brought down the fire of Torah, and this is the inner dimension of the fire. And we see what's symbolic about the fire. You could see it, and it illuminates your eyes, but you can't touch the inside because it burns. But someone who is really on a high level, like they say, in Kabbalah we learned that the angels, they're made out of fire. And the Gemara tells us stories about the great tzaddikim that they could walk through fire and it wouldn't bother them. So this is symbolic of the Torah. And this is a celebration of Torah. But yet, Lag BaOmer, in the tradition of Rabbi Shimon, every Jew can relate to it. That's why I say Rabbi Shimon is our quintessential leader. The Ashkenazim say he's ours. The Sephardim say he's ours. The woven kippahs say he's ours, and the black kippahs say he's ours. The people with that kippot at all, they say he's ours, and they're making hot dogs at their bonfire. So Lag BaOmer is something for the unity of the Jewish people. That's why it's such a great holiday, because it brings us all together. And Yoni, if we're together, if we're really together, then there's nothing, no power on the world that can budge us.
Rabbi Lazer Brody, thank you very much for joining us, and a happy Lag BaOmer.
Happy Lag BaOmer, and blessings to you and to all our viewers and for all the nation of Israel, wherever they are.
As many are in Meron right now, praying, connecting spiritually to the day, there are also, of course, thousands of policemen and first aid staff that are out there to protect and to assist when necessary. We spoke earlier this morning with Superintendent Miki Rosenfeld. Miki Rosenfeld is the international spokesperson for the Israeli police for international media.
Hi, good morning, Yoni. How are you?
Great. So tell us please about the special operation, Lag BaOmer, of course, surrounding the event in Meron.
Lag BaOmer celebrations in the Meron area, as far as the Israeli National Police are concerned, tremendous preparations have been made over the last 3 weeks. In fact, we're talking about celebrations with more than 500,000 people expected to be in and around the different areas tonight, and therefore our main emphasis is preventing any major incidents. Obviously, we have to take into consideration the number of people, the crowds, and that's why there's more than 5,000 police officers in the area, and they will continue to be in the area, in fact, till late tomorrow afternoon.
Now, one of the issues that is being emphasized this year is the issue of traffic control.
That's correct. There's shuttles making their way up and down the mountain throughout the afternoon and into the evening. We're expecting the final number, almost a peak of 500,000 people, to be towards the early evening. But that's one of the precautions that we've taken in terms of no vehicles making their way up the mountain. Our main emphasis is in fact crowd control. As we saw over the last couple of weeks, there are a number of different issues that took place in different cities across the country, such as Bnei Brak, where unfortunately the crowd on their initiative moved into different directions without coordination, and unfortunately 2 people in fact lost their lives. And therefore the main emphasis this year in fact is not necessarily vehicles, but making sure that the crowd, the thousands of religious people that will be both sleeping over and camping out overnight, will be safe, and there won't be any major issues that we'll have to deal with. And therefore our police units are at the moment in the different areas, special patrol units, border police, traffic police, everything you can imagine on site.
But is there anything that can be done when we're talking about such a big crowd?
Yes, there's different areas which are being cordoned off specifically. Obviously, we have VIPs and representatives from the government that will make their way up and will make sure they get up safely. But we have to make sure that the crowd can come to the specific areas which are being cordoned off in a precautious way. We're not taking any chances this year whatsoever.
And of course, in addition to Miron, the police is at full throttle, securing events, Lag BaOmer events around the country, and of course all the bonfires.
In general, there's coordination which has been made by the different security organizations, both the Israeli police, the fire brigades and different units, that if necessary will respond to fires that could get out of control. What we know in terms of the weather itself, weather conditions fairly good. There's no major winds which we're expecting. But we have also, of course, the command center which is set up to coordinate and respond if necessary to any incident, not just here where we are at the moment, but also in different areas across the country so we can coordinate together.
Superintendent Mickey Rosenfeld, Israeli Police, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed.
Shalom to Rabbi Zev Slavin, head of the Or Simcha Children's Home in Kfar Chabad.
Shalom, shalom. Lag BaOmer, Sameach.
Lag BaOmer Sameach. So we're talking about the meanings behind Lag BaOmer and the spiritual aspects. And it seems that Chabad has taken this day as an opportunity of education and, generally speaking, as a special project of Chabad.
Different heights. Chabad has taken the Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, our Rebbe, indeed did take Lag BaOmer and really make us reach out to way loftier planes than ever before. You see, Lag BaOmer, first and foremost, of course, is the day of the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the day that he passed away, and that he himself asked that we make a Yom Hilula, to rejoice this day and use this day, utilize this day to elevate and become better people and better Yidden. And we as Chassidim, the Rashbi, of course, was the father of all Chassidim, of Kabbalah. He's the one that started this Zohar and really started revealing the secrets of Chassidus and Kabbalah. And we Chassidim in general, and Chabad in particular, who continue today by learning Chassidut and Kabbalah, feel that this day is a very special day for the Rashbi. Of course.
And the main focus in terms of Chabad activity is the children.
Indeed. For the second reason why we rejoice on Lag BaOmer is because, of course, as the Gemara tells us the story of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 Talmidim, students. And the Talmud in Yevomis relates to us that in a very short time, between Pesach and Shavuot, they all passed away in a very difficult death. And the Gemara, the Talmud, teaches us why. Mishum shaloi nahagu kavod zelazeh. They did not respect each other. Now, how could that be? Rabbi Akiva, the one that taught us that v'hafta l'reacha kamoicha ze klal godel b'Torah, that the underlining statement in Torah and teaching of Torah is loving your fellow man. How is it that his students, that they should not have respect one for another? And the Rebbe, in great detail, would explain that because they were such great students, because they were such great people, Torah, God demands of them much more love and affection between themselves and for the level that they were, their love was not, and respect for one another was not enough. And the Rebbe, our Rebbe, would teach us that the day of Lag BaOmer is coming to teach us unity, Ahavat Yisrael, love for another human being, love for another Yid. And therefore, when we make a Lag BaOmer parade, Yachad Kol Yalda Yisrael, together in unity, all of us as one, to love really love one another and do all I can to help another person, to help another Yid, physically, spiritually, or in every extent that I can. So the Lag BaOmer became the symbol of love for V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so let us.
It's important to note that your activities target all audiences, not just the religious, the observant.
When Torah tells us, V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha, it does not say if he has long payas, or if he has a black yarmulke, or is wearing long pants. Another human being, or another Jew for that matter, the way he looks, the way he acts, is really meaningless, for we are all brothers. And that would always teach us, love another human being, love another Yid, another Jew, no matter what he looks like and what he does. And indeed, the Lag BaOmer parades are for Yachad Shiftei Yisrael, all together in unity, all together, no matter what background they're from or the way they act in their everyday life.
Rabbi Slavin, as an educator, how do you reach the children these days with these important messages, especially these days with all the other influences and messages that the children are receiving?
Something marvelous when you come to a child, and particularly anybody actually, but particularly to a child, and you come with him with honest truth, reality, real truth, real emes. This is what the children, this is our youth really want. If you love them, but you really love them, not just expressing in words, but they're very, very shrewd and they're smart. A child immediately realizes that the Chabad house in his neighborhood really, really cares. That in itself is enough to ignite midah keneged midah, to ignite the love, the sharing and being together. The fact is that Lag BaOmer parades all over the world, all over the Chabad houses, thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of Jews from all walks of life unite together, in unity together, marching for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Rabbi Zev Slavin, head of the Or Simcha Children's Home in Kfar Chabad, thank you very much for joining us, and Lag BaOmer Sameach.
Thank you so much for having us, and let's really hope and pray to Hashem that a little bit of that Ahavas Yisrael, little bit, comes into our hearts and each and every one of us, that we, each and every one of us, could be one bit better as of this Lag BaOmer. And a happy Lag BaOmer to you all, a nice bonfire, enjoy your chips.
Not far from Meron is the holy city of Tzfat, and in Tzfat, the holy, important institute of Ascent. We earlier spoke with two rabbis from that important institution. Shalom, Rabbi Mordechai Ziv and Rabbi Al Karuchi of Ascent. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, thanks. Getting ready for the big day here.
So the north is the main focus of events, as we're understanding from what's happening in Meron. Tell us a bit what happens really in your area these days.
So, being in Tzfat, we have an incredible connection to the whole festivity of Lag BaOmer and Meron, and the spirit of the north is very powerful here, and we feel the connection all year round, preparing for this one day. And now that the energy is here and the spirit is here, we feel that the whole world is focused on Meron right now, that we know that the north is the place, so we know that Ascent is where it's happening, and we're going to take people there tonight, and we're going to meet hundreds of thousands of Jews from all over the world coming to party and celebrate Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
It's amazing, I have to say, Mordechai, as well. Don't you think it's like how the face of this area is changing? It's like you can see it on the roads, you know, you hear more horns, people beeping, and that's absolutely aggravating our spirituality.
And we understand you hold a special educational activity.
Yes, absolutely. We have a beautiful program which you can see through our site, what's going on from Wednesday till Saturday. And as my friend Mordechai said, we're going, the top of it, that we're going to all climb up to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and party together and to experience this adventure. Tomorrow we have, let's say, chasing a class about the Zohar, about the secrets of the Torah. We have beautiful classes that the duties are basically to increase awareness and mindfulness of godliness in our daily life, and through that taking it to our daily relationships.
Right now, what we're experiencing, the program itself is that we're gathering young Jewish people from all over Israel, and that they're coming really to experience this at Ascent, and really that we can be the compass, the guiding force for them, to be able to show them how to experience and how to be able to connect to the holy experience that's going to be in Mount Meron tonight.
So really regarding the visits to the grave sites of our sages, what is the focus? What is the essence that you try to teach the visitors, the essence of these visits to the tombstone?
Okay, really, the essence of going to the grave, it's really interesting that it mentioned in the scriptures that once a Jew coming to a site where a tzaddik lays there is getting a boost to his divine soul. And basically this is the essence of that meeting, and we're taking people there and we're preparing them as far as mentally and spiritual level how to come and how to experience the most out of this time.
Really, the preparation from going to the grave of a tzaddik is the most important thing that we have. Rabbi Leiter got a special instruction from the Rebbe that we have to write a special note to connect to the tzaddik, and we also have to bring a book of Tehillim, of Psalms of King David, and some coins to give to charity on the way up, and also a candle to light because we're connecting to the soul of that holy person resting there. We want him to touch and affect our soul as well.
So as we mentioned, you're talking to us from the north. What is it that makes this area so unique, so really magnificent, spiritually and also socially?
I think what makes the north very special is the beautiful scenery here, the mountains, the hills, the charm of the Galilee, and obviously our connection to the Golan, which is also the beauty of the north as well. And we have the beauty that we see is manifest both physical and spiritual here, because we see this through the different aliyahs that came here. We had the Spanish aliyah that came here in the 1500s, and they connected to the spirit of the Zohar of Kabbalah. And we had the Hasidic aliyah that came 200 years after, and they were a continuation of that. And we had also the idea that Ascent opened up in 1983, that we saw that this was an energy and a spirit here that was nowhere else in this land. And this is something that I think that attracts people, and people catch the Friday night fever here in Tzfat, which they don't have any other place in the world. The world thinks they have Saturday night fever, but they know that Friday night fever is alive and well from Shlomo Alkabetz and L'cha Dodi here in Tzfat, and this is a tremendous blessing we have here.
It's also, if we'll go even further back in our history, 1,800 years ago, 2,000 years ago, from the time of the Romans, from the time of the Talmud, from the Mishnah, all the stories that we have in the Talmud, in the Mishnah, in the Zohar, that we meet like, all those tzaddikim that met each other, and they went through certain procedure, and they created certain energy in the air, and this energy created like actually the physical. Right now that you're coming to Tzfat and you're feeling also elevated spiritually, because it's in the air, it's in the energy of this place.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Most welcome.
We're
See
waiting
you.
for you guys to come and experience the beauty here with us.
So we spoke about the police, also the first aid medical staffs are on scene. Earlier we spoke with Yonatan Yagodovsky, Director of the International Department in Magen David Adom.
Shalom.
Shalom, so what can you tell us about the deployment tonight in the area of Meron?
Magen David Adom is already placing medical clinics in Meron and in the surrounding areas. We have mobile intensive care units, ambulances, first responders on life-saving motorbikes. Our northern helicopters is also on call, and hundreds of emergency medical technicians, paramedics, and doctors are deployed in a big area in Meron and in the parking lots around, expecting to receive at least 500,000 people from today until tomorrow, or even through the weekend, and be able to provide all kinds of medical assistance, either minor or severe, to people who will be attending this beautiful event.
And from your experience in the past, what are the main medical challenges?
From minor cuts and bruises, minor burnings and so on, to more severe injuries, including burns from the fires that are being lit, smoke inhalation, and if needed, respiratory problems and even cardiac problems. We are expecting to treat a full variety of ages, from young children and babies that are doing their first haircut, to their grandparents and more senior people that might feel bad, might be hurt, and also, unfortunately, we do experience every year car accidents, not only in Meron, but in the roads that are in the periphery of Meron, because of the extensive density of traffic that already started yesterday and is continuing in the coming days.
And also people driving home after a night with no sleep, that's also, of course, very dangerous.
Yes, this is one of the things that we want to try and guide the people, is to try and prevent from problems. Don't drive when you are tired. Rest a few more hours. If needed, use the public transportation that is being operated throughout the days throughout the nights in order to make sure that people will be less stressed when they are driving. Make sure that if you take medications, bring them with you and make sure that they are using them properly. If you have respiratory problems, try not to be inside the smoke, even though the atmosphere drives you there. Make sure that your kids are near you. They're not playing with the fire and with other things, because the chance that somebody will get hurt in a second is extremely high, and then you lose all the great advantages of the beautiful festivity. And this is also applying to all the other people in Israel that are celebrating near their homes with their kids and allowing their kids to lit up the fires and enjoy themselves throughout the country.
So in addition to Meron, you're deployed throughout the country. It's special high alert.
Yes, it's a very known busy night, let's say, until early hours of the morning. Most of Magen David Adom region has already elevated the level of alert. More ambulances and medicycles are deployed throughout the neighborhoods, in the big cities, in small communities, and so on, just to make sure that if needed, Magen David Adom will be there within minutes or even seconds to treat people who for some reason were hurt. I must stress that people should remember, if you are hurt, dial 101 and immediately one of our dispatchers will receive your call and give you even guidelines over the phone how to begin the medical treatment until the ambulance or the paramedics and the medics will arrive to the scene and assist you within the next few minutes.
Yonatan Yagodovsky, Director of the International Department of Magen David Adom, thank you very much for joining us and good luck.
Thank you. Chag Sameach.
Okay, that's all for our special broadcast, our special Lag BaOmer broadcast on Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalNews.com. Thank you very much for joining us and continue enjoying this important day. We've learned a lot during this broadcast. Be careful with the fires, of course. Lag BaOmer Sameach.